Hello, everyone. Happy Easter to all who celebrate and blessed Ostara. To others who celebrate, as I mentioned a few days ago, Ukraine's offer of a truce on Easter has been rejected by Russia. So this has been another violent, deadly attack day. But first, let's go back to the topic of who is your ally, who is a good member. Slovakia has joined Hungary in urging the EU to lift all sanctions, not just some sanctions, all sanctions on Russia's oil and gas. I want to remind everybody that Slovakia and Hungary are the only two European nations who are still exporting Russian oil. In that respect, Europe is much better prepared to dispense with Russian oil than the rest of the world, other recipients of Russian oil exports. So, once again, my question to the EU is, with friends like that, are you sure you want to keep them? Slovakia and Hungary has been relentless in undermining the interests of the European Union, undermine the interests of NATO, and they continue to do so in a very blatant, very obvious way. So my question is, how do they deserve to be EU members? And Ukraine doesn't. Zelensky announced a greater security cooperation with Turkey. That's actually not a bad thing. As you all know, I have no great love for Erdogan, but we do need Turkey's cooperation in the Black Sea. And Turkey understands that. And I said this in the past. There is no doubt in my mind that through this entire war between Russia and Ukraine, or rather the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, Turkey has been considering who would be a better neighbor across the Black Sea, Russia or Ukraine. And I think the answer is kind of obvious. There are rumors that Witkoff and Kushner might actually come to Kyiv sometime this month. Really? Wow, did they decide to grow balls? Seriously? I will believe it when I see it, folks. Considering they have been basically lauded as Ukraine conflict experts for many months now, and they haven't once been to Ukraine while having visited Russia multiple times. I'll believe it when I see it. As I said, there's been more deadly strikes yet again this weekend, including long-range kamikaze Shahed-style drones. There were attacks in Dnipropetrovsk region, which is a close neighbor of my native Zaporizhia region. There have been attacks on the seaport of Odessa. In the Sumy region, the casualties included children aged from 2 to 15 years old. There were also deadly strikes in Kherson region and in Chernihiv region. And good on Ukraine, it's refusing to budge as everybody's saying, oh, please stop attacking Russia's oil infrastructure because we don't want to pay more for gas. And again, to those people, I say, fuck you. You're not the ones being bombed by Russia. I don't think gas would matter as much to you as if you were getting drone strikes on your home. I hope Ukraine stays the course. Recently, Ukrainian drones struck a Lukoil oil refinery in Kstovo and an oil terminal in the Leningrad region. So, again, this should be perfectly clear to everybody. Oil industry, oil revenues are the lifeblood of this war. Instead of whining, work on your green technologies. Because Ukraine doesn't owe you a damn thing. Ukraine is just trying to survive. Now, there is a big op-ed on Kyiv Independent website today, and I suggest, folks, that you read this in its entirety. It is very detailed, and there's a lot of good information there. We're back to talking about what Ukraine has learned during its own problems and what it can now bring to the table when it comes to the conflict in the Middle East. So what I like about this particular piece is that it begins by explaining the geography, which it should, because a lot of people don't quite get it. You know, why we're having such problems in the Strait of Hormuz. There is a map that shows you and a note that tells you why this is complicated. Because the Strait of Hormuz is tiny. It's 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, or 20 miles. So, not big at all. And it talks about how many vessels normally pass through. And this wouldn't be the first time in history when somebody basically made a stronghold somewhere narrow. Those are some of the easiest places to make your stand. So this is logical. From a strategic standpoint, blocking the Strait of Hormuz can be done fairly easily with very few resources. And that is exactly what Iranians are doing. And then we're talking options. So the article discusses the diplomatic options and a military strike option without actually putting boots on the ground. That is very important, as all of you know. So this is where Ukraine comes in, because Ukraine has had an opportunity to open its own access to the Black Sea. Because remember, Ukraine has to somehow get its exports out into the world. We talked about this. And that has been more than challenging, because Russia had a fleet and Ukraine didn't. So Ukraine was like, okay, we don't have a fleet. What do we have? And that is where things got interesting. So read the article again, especially if you are a technical person, if you are a military person and are interested in strategy. This is definitely for you. More to come.